move on to the second part, and in this slide session, we're basically continue to talk about the main concepts around virtual reality. And in this second part of virtual reality concepts, we will go through the concepts of avatar, telepresence and teleoperation, virtual reality sickness, and synthetic versus captured environments. Well, let's see what this means. So the first concept is avatar. Let's briefly discuss what an avatar is. And I think this concept should be familiar to all of you because it is used often also outside of virtual reality. So it's not a concept that is only related to virtual reality. It's not specific to virtual reality. We often encounter this, the concept of avatar in online systems, games, for example. And basically, an avatar is a representation of a user. Typically, a synthetic representation of a user, so not a photo of the user. Why? Because usually one of the uses for avatars is to provide some level of anonymity. So in addition to functioning as a kind of a character in the virtual environment, something that belongs to the story of the environment, anonymity is also very important in many situations. So an avatar also provides you with that. And Ready Player One is a good example of the need for avatars. Also in the perspective of a way to help escape reality. So I'll just show you another clip from this movie to illustrate what I mean by this.
Riots, after people stopped trying to fix problems and just tried to outlive them. My parents, they didn't make it through those times, so I live here in Columbus, Ohio with my Aunt Alice. In 2045, Columbus is the fastest growing city on Earth. It's where Halliday and Morrow started gregarious games. These days, reality is a bummer. Everyone's looking for a way to escape. And that's why Halliday, that's why he was such a hero to us. He showed us that we could go somewhere without going anywhere at all. You don't need a destination when you're running on an omnidirectional treadmill with quadraphonic pressure-sensitive underlay. James Halliday saw the future, and then he built it. He gave us a place to go, a place called the Oasis. This is the Oasis. It's a place where the limits of reality are your own imagination. You can do anything. Go anywhere. Like the Vacation Planet. Surf a 50-foot monster wave in Hawaii. You can ski down the pyramids. You can climb Mount Everest with Batman. Check out this place. It's a casino the size of a planet. You can lose your money there. You can get married. You can get divorced. You can go in there. People come to the Oasis for all the things they can do, but they stay because of all the things they can be. Tall, beautiful, scary, a different sex, a different species, live action, cartoon. It's all your call. Yeah, that's me. Well, that's my avatar. At least until I feel like changing. Except for eating, sleeping, and bathroom breaks, whatever people want to do, they do it in the Oasis. And since everyone is here, This is where we meet each other. It's where we make friends. Locate H.
Locating H. H located. Sector 12.
Okay, so this gives a good overview of avatars and how they might be used. So in this case, in this movie, they're more than just a representation for a user. They're a different character. So something that you can really incarnate and be a different person in this case. So providing not only anonymity, but like a different persona, a way to escape the reality. Another concept, so we're jumping between concepts, sometimes unrelated concepts. Another pair of important concepts in virtual reality, particularly in some types of virtual reality, is that of telepresence and teleoperation. So these two are tightly connected concepts. And basically, telepresence is being present, not necessarily in the sense of immersion, of mental immersion that we talked a bit earlier, but just being present in a real location, but often a distant location. And if additionally you are able to have some form of control in that distant physical reality, then we can say we have teleoperation. So we can operate on things on the distant reality. This is an example of telepresence robots. So it's one way to have telepresence. And these are actually commercial devices. So these are robots that you can control from your desktop at home. And basically they have a display that typically shows your face. And this way you can interact with coworkers in a remote location, as if you were present in that location, but in actuality you are very far away in your home, for example. So in the example in this picture, you cannot affect the physical world. So the robot has no arms, has no way to control anything in the real physical location. So this would be only telepresence, not teleoperation. But again, it's important to note that your sense of presence or mental immersion is probably very low here. So telepresence does not guarantee mental immersion. Okay, you are still telepresent in the sense that you can navigate through the remote physical environment, even if that are probably at home behind a desktop, you don't really feel present in that environment. Okay, but technically this is usually called telepresence. A good movie about telepresence and teleoperation is the Surrogates movie. I'll show you just a clip here.
What you're telling me is that the monkey is operating this arm with nothing but his thoughts.
Absolutely.
There are 100 sensors, each listening to a different brain cell or neuron.
Physically disabled people will be able to operate fully synthetic bodies. It provides a tremendous amount of hope for the future.
Because of the technology that we have, at a time of war, we're going to start seeing this more and more.
As manufacturing capacity expanded from military and industrial use, surrogates became affordable to the general public, causing a revolution in how we live.
The ability to leave your home without risk of disease or injury, to have perfect looks without trips to the gym or plastic surgery.
There's no question that at some point there will be persons like anyone else. They will not be human, but that they will be part of our community, there's no question in my mind.
This is again a very interesting movie. If you don't know it, yeah, and if you like science fiction, it's a nice movie to watch. It's a good example of teleoperation. It's actually the movie kind of depicts kind of the end vision for telepresence and teleoperation. So in the movie, I think you all understood, people actually live their lives through surrogates, what they call surrogates, which are basically robots that resemble the real person. But these robots basically do everything in people's lives, and they are controlled by their owners. So in this case, in this movie, people don't sit behind a desktop controlling a robot, but they lie down in a special device that connects them to their surrogate, their robot. It's important to note that these robots, they are not avatars, because they are physical robots that can go anywhere a person could go. Another concept in virtual reality, this one very specific to virtual reality, is virtual reality sickness, or sometimes called simulator sickness. This is something that was often observed in flight simulators, hence the name simulator sickness. And what it is basically describes physical and mental sickness that some people may experience in virtual reality. For example, some people get dizzy or disoriented. Some people throw up, for example, after being in VR. Some people get headaches. So it basically describes various kinds of sickness that can happen because you were in a virtual reality experience. VR sickness is mostly due to inconsistencies in the virtual reality experience. For example, lag time between action and reaction. If the virtual reality system is slow to respond to your actions, so if the system takes long to recognize an action and then make something happen, this may induce some kind of virtual reality sickness. Imagine, for example, that you are in a virtual reality environment and you can see a virtual representation of your hand. And you move your hands across, for example, across your face, your physical hand. But the system is very slow to detect this, and your virtual hand takes like 5 seconds to make the same movement. This would represent a very large lag time. And this kind of things can make you disoriented because your body is in a given position, but your virtual representation of your body is in another one. So this creates inconsistencies that then may make your mind kind of develop some kind of sickness, headaches, disorientation, etc. It may also be due to inconsistencies between different senses. For example, imagine you are in a virtual reality experience, and in that experience, in that environment, you are lying down in bed, looking at the ceiling. But in the physical world, you may be sitting down and looking straight ahead. So what happens is your visual sense in the virtual environment will be looking up at the ceiling as if you were lying down. But your vestibular sense, so your vestibular sense is what gives you your sense of equilibrium, that allows you to know that you are upright and not, for example, tilted or lying down. Your vestibular sense will tell you that you are sitting down. So there's an inconsistency between two senses: your vestibular, which is not hacked, is not hijacked by the virtual reality system, and your vision, which is being hijacked by the virtual reality system. And they are in an inconsistent state between themselves. And this happens frequently. And in some cases, depending on the kinds of inconsistencies, if you are in a virtual environment for long, you may experience some kind of sickness. And of course, this also depends much on the person itself. So some people develop VR sickness much easier than other people. The final concept that I'd like to talk about is about synthetic versus captured environments. So this basically represents two extremes. In one end, we have a completely synthetic environment invented from geometric 3D objects. Imagine a 3D model space. Completely synthetic, without any elements from reality. Completely imagined, completely made up by a 3D modeler. On the other hand, we may have photographic environments that capture a physical reality somewhere. So imagine a 360-degree photo that you took with a 360-degree camera. So that's a photograph that represents a real environment. So this would be a captured environment. We can have both in virtual reality. Although, as I said, some people don't agree that a captured environment should be called virtual reality. Okay, because it represents a real location. But if you adopt a broader definition of virtual reality, then we can have both of these types of environments. And actually, in your project, I will ask you to use both. A good example of completely synthetic environments is the one by Johnny Mnemonic. I won't play the clip again. You already saw one or two examples. So if you remember, it was the virtual reality in Johnny Mnemonic represented kind of an abstract information space where he could navigate to make kind of a phone call, the instant phone call, and he could search for information, etc. It was purely synthetic, so 3D modeled. An example of a captured environment is obviously in the case where we have telepresence or teleoperation, then the environment is captured by definition. So in this case, the robots, the surrogates, they have cameras that capture the real environment and stream that environment in real time back to the user, to the owner. So we have on one hand, the possibility of creating synthetic environments. On the other hand, we can use cameras and stream or record at a moment in time a physical, real environment. Okay, so this ends this topic of virtual reality concepts.